Amen. Welcome everyone today. And if you've been a part of the Family Vacation series, today is the final one. And you heard Eric mention earlier, and I want to put in context who I am. I'm not the pastor here, but this whole series started with Pastor Mike. And if you think of it in baseball terms, he's kind of the starting pitcher, the best pitcher we have. And then you saw what the bullpen looked like, pretty deep in the bullpen with Pastor Nate, Pastor Bill, Pastor Tony. But if you ever watch a ball game and they have to go to the bullpen early in the game, it goes very deep, and then they start asking other fielders who's had some pitching experience. And one guy says, well, I used to pitch back in the 9 and 10-year-old minors. And they say, put them in. Well, that's what you got today. But my name is John Bowman. Many of you have probably seen me because me and my wife and my family, we serve in the kids area downstairs, and so we get to see your kids every day, and you'll hear a glimpse of what I teach the kids, because it's you see on your outline ABC, and that's a lot what I talk to the kids because the gospel is simple. But a few weeks ago we did the welcome, or I did the welcome message and explained why I enjoy working in the kids area, because statistically more kids or more people in general come to Christ at a young age statistically than any other age. And we want to impact the kingdom of heaven in the greatest way possible. So we serve your children each and every day and tell them about Jesus. But this is my family, and we're at a fiesta. This is a few months ago. My oldest son is on the far right with his newlywed. They got married back on June the 11th, and this was the wedding shower. And then my other two children, and one you'll meet towards the end. He's going to come on stage and help me with something, and then my lovely wife on the far right. I did outkick my coverage, so she's a pretty lady. But outside of this, I work in the kids area here, but outside of here, I work at Hope Inspired Ministries. It's a nonprofit, and Journey Church actually supports us both financially. So when you give to Journey, you're given to help change lives through Hope Inspired Ministries. And then we have many volunteers that come through here. One of the stories I'll share today, his mentor actually goes to church here, Nathan Bridgman, and he comes by weekly and pours into Trey, which I'll show that in a minute. But this is our mission statement. Hope Inspired Ministries serves the chronically unemployed by preparing and equipping them to obtain, maintain, and excel at employment. I underline and excel, and it's on your sheet there because God wants us all to excel. When I'm recruiting a student to our program, we constantly have to talk them into wanting better, but they start to settling in life for less when God created top shelf for each and every one of us. He has purpose for us. He has a plan for us. So what we do at Hope Inspired Ministries is workforce development with a heavy dose of social work. And Jesus is the greatest social worker ever, meeting the individual needs. So they'll come to us with addiction background. They'll come to us from incarceration. They'll come to us with no father figure coming up in the home, or maybe their mother was working and they raised themselves at home. No transportation, no identification. So while we teach valuable job skills, we're also breaking down those individual barriers. But we start each day with sharing the gospel to them we do devotion with them each and every day, because that is the foundation to them. And just this past week, I had the opportunity to go and speak to a prison in Elmore, and was talking to them about the very basic of what you're going to hear today, and that's the gospel. That's the gospel, and I always tell them the foot of the cross is level. I'm not talking at them, I'm talking with them. And I'm not talking at you today, I'm talking with you. I need Jesus, and I know you do too. So this is what I do. I encourage you to go check out the website, hopeinspiredministries.org. I will share some student stories today, but would love for you to see what we do and what you participate in changing lives. So today's message is simple. I may talk like a child. I guess that's why they have me in the children's ministry. But I want to keep it simple, and so I thought I could start with some dad jokes, or simple jokes. I'm sorry, not dad jokes, but simple jokes. My kids say they're dad jokes. But to start with, why did the nurse need a red pen at work? In case she needed to draw some blood. Red pen to draw blood. They get better. They get better. My kids didn't laugh at all of them, and my wife didn't either, so that's okay. Two artists had an art contest. The unfortunate thing is it ended in a draw. And this one, I did get 100% laugh at home when I tried it, so hopefully I do here as well. But how do you make a tissue dance? You put a little boogie in it. Or a big boogie, however you want to look at it. But those are simple jokes. But, really and truly, if you read the New Testament and Jesus keeps things simple. He talks in parables. I've got two examples today. The religious leaders try to overcomplicate things. We try to overcomplicate things. We try to make the gospel hard, but it is really simple. And coming home to Jesus is simple and safe, but there's only one way. So this whole vacation series, we're talking about coming home today, and the ultimate coming home is when you ask Jesus into your heart. It's simple, but yet it's the greatest decision ever. And this room may be full of Christians. But, statistically speaking, I know that there's some in here that do not know Jesus. They don't have a personal relationship with Jesus. Those of you who do may take today's message and say, I need to apply that to sharing the gospel to people at work. Jesus don't want to meet you on Sunday at church. He wants to meet you 7 days a week, all through the week. But you can put a GPS code in and get to Panama City a couple of different ways, and you can get off course, and it'll say all these things. But Jesus is simple. It's one way. And in John 14:6, he says, Jesus told them, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. So the gospel is simple. I'm going to share to you today about the prodigal son. And for years I've read the prodigal son and thought that there's, just really about the one son, but there's really two sons, and both of them were lost. Both of them needed Jesus. Oftentimes we may look at the prodigal son and talk about them, or they need Jesus. You see someone messing up, but just like I spoke to the prison, we all need Jesus. And I want to give a shameless plug for life groups. Me and my wife, we lead a life group each and every week, and we always do a marriage life group because we want to invest in our own marriage. And we're not leading marriage life group because we're qualified. We're leading marriage life group because we want to make an intentional investment into our marriage. And if you look at it from the financial aspect, if you never invest any money, don't expect any return. So to invest in those. And I want to share just a quick story about life groups. Some guys, we went to a men's retreat, or a men's, you can't call it a men's group retreat. We went to a men's gathering in Birmingham, and they had an analogy where they talked about a renegade buffalo. And a renegade buffalo is a huge animal. I mean, it's massive. And he talked about a little bitty small prairie dog, and they said that this little bitty small prairie dog could easily defeat this huge buffalo. And the only reason it's possible is because that little bitty prairie dog never operates alone. The renegade buffalo always operates alone. So the pack of the prairie dogs can easily defeat them. That's what a life group is. When you surround yourself with others, you will have success, because when you go down, they will pick you up. And you operate together. And in today's story, the prodigal son, you'll see him. He was a renegade. He left on his own and was in a pig pen by himself. But when he returned home to that small group, that family. And it's a beautiful picture at the end of it. So the first line in your outline there is A, and that's basic. Admit you're a sinner. Admit you are a sinner. And the prodigal son had to come to grasp with that concept, and we'll start into reading of that. But to illustrate this point further, Jesus told them this story. A man had two sons, and I really want to point out the two sons because, to be honest, I'd never really thought of the other son, but the other son was as lost as this son was. As I began to talk about this one son leaving home, not one time did you hear the older brother try to get the younger brother to stop. Why did he not try to get him to stop? Because he wanted him out of the house. He wanted him out of his inheritance. The younger son told his father, I want my share of your estate now before you die. So his father agreed to divide his wealth between his sons. A few days later, this younger son packed all his belongings and moved to a distant land, and there he wasted all his money in wild living. About the time his money ran out, a great famine swept over the land, and he began to starve. He persuaded a local farmer to hire him, and the man sent him into his fields to feed the pigs. The young man became so hungry that even the pods he was feeding the pigs looked good to him, but no one gave him anything. And I don't want to pass the story of love and how the Father loves us. I asked Jesus into my heart at an early age, and for me it was kind of an option thing. It was either heaven or hell, and I was like, well, give me heaven. That's a clear no-brainer. But as I have grown closer and closer to God, God wants to do life with us now, and the reason He loves us so much, and in this story is a perfect picture of love. If you think back to the inheritance, you were not allowed to get an inheritance until your father died. So he was basically wishing his dad to die. But yet, as you hear on into the story, the father loved his son so much. What he did, it didn't matter. His love overrode that. And our past don't determine our future. Our God does. He loves us an incredible amount beyond our understanding. But I got a bucket here, and this bucket kind of illustrates our life. And we go through life a lot like this prodigal son. It's real easy to think that that's them, but it's not them, it's us. We go through life like this, with open end, trying to fill up our lives. We try to fill it up with, careers. We think if we can just get one more promotion, it's going to do it. If we can just get one more dollar, that's going to be enough. It's like the old Geico commercial, you almost catch it on the fishing pole and then he moves it so far away, you never catch the dollar. I tell people I used to be addicted to money, thinking, if I just got this amount, everything's going to be okay. But everything you put in this bucket, if I was putting water in here, it would pour straight out. It's the same way with our lives. It may be relationships. If I can just get that right one, they're going to make all the difference. But it doesn't. It may be an addiction. A lot of our students in Hope Inspired Ministries will come to us with addiction background. If I can just get one more high, that's going to be enough. It's never enough. And we go through life just like the prodigal son, trying to fill it up. I've known people that, education, if I could just get one more degree. Nope, that didn't work. I'm going to get one more. Nope, that didn't work. Or raise at work. If I could get one more raise, that doesn't work. But we go through life just like that. And I want to share one of our student stories from Hope Inspired Ministries. And at Hope Inspired Ministries, we have 5 different campuses. We have one in Montgomery, and this is our 10-year anniversary. We started in 2012, and we expanded to Birmingham and Lowndes County, opened a campus in Lowndes County in 2020. And then we opened one at Alabama Department of Youth Services and Mount Meigs. And then in the background here, you see the Foundry Ministries. It's a year-long addiction treatment program in Bessemer, and we partner with them, and we go in and teach their participants our curriculum in Hope Inspired Ministries. But this young man sitting here, his name is Jeff, and he was in our program in the Montgomery campus and did really well, and it's never too late in your life to get it right. Jeff was 66 years old, homeless, and when he came to us, he had addiction background. He was just like the prodigal son. He was going through life. He's been doing it for 66 years, trying to fill up his life, and it didn't work. But we'll keep trying. If I can just keep trying. It doesn't work. I'm here to tell you, stop today. It doesn't work. But Jeff our program is 9 weeks, and he was 8.5 weeks in when he didn't make it. He didn't complete the program. We had him in safe housing, and he relapsed. He relapsed on his drug. that he chooses and became homeless again. And we went on a rescue mission to try to find him. And I found him at, if you're familiar with Montgomery, on Madison Square Shopping Center, Atlanta Highway, right at Ann Street where it comes into it. And I first pulled up, he was sitting on the curb, and I said, "Hey, Jeff, get in the car, man. Let's talk about this." And he wouldn't. He refused to. So I went and parked my car, and I went up and I sat on the curb right outside Family Dollar and tried to talk him into coming back home, just like the prodigal son, trying to come back home. And I used this story from John chapter 5, and I've used it several times to try to, and I talked to a guy after the first service for him to use it with another guy that he's trying to get help. But to lead into the story, there's a pool of Bathsheba in the Bible. And the pool of Bathsheba, an angel would come down and stir the waters and create a healing pool. And the people would get in the healing pool to become healed. And there was a lame man sitting by the pool, and he had been lame for 38 years. But I don't want us to get caught into him, because this story is for us. You know, what are we called into? What is holding us back? You know, are you having problems at work because you truly think it's about that and not about God? Are you holding back on your marriage? You know, and I learned this in our marriage life group. So this was a marriage analogy. But there are illnesses in our own life that are holding us back from God creating us that glory. He wants us. He created you with high value and high purpose, but we let Satan's lies creep in and tell us otherwise and different. But I want to read this first paragraph here. But when Jesus saw him and knew he had been ill for a long time, he knew he'd been ill for 38 years. He knows what you're dealing with, and he knows how long you've been dealing with it. Maybe an addiction. I don't know. But he knows exactly what it is. But he knew he had been ill for a long time, and he asked him. And I want you to put yourself, whatever situation you have in your life, maybe he wants you to serve in the kids' ministry. I got a spot for you down there. It may be that he wants you to lead a life group. Next week, not only they're having baptisms, but they're having life group training. You know, it may be that you don't need to sign up for a life group. It may be that you need to lead a life group. But maybe you're like this young man by the pool and saying, you know, I've been doing it for 38 years. I'm not ready. Okay? But Jesus is saying this question to you. He's saying this question to you. Would you like to get well? Would you like to get well? And I said this prayer right on Madison Square on the curb with Jeff. And Jeff did like each and every one of us do. He said, "Well, I can't." Have we not ever said that? Anytime someone has asked you to serve, we're quick to say, "I can't." Or even if I say, you know, Jesus wants you, sometimes we think that I got to get cleaned up before I can ask Jesus into my life. That's what Jeff said. He said, you know what, I've got to get clean before I can come to the Father. You cannot clean yourself. You have to have Jesus. That's you trying to do enough good. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And I told Jeff it was a yes or no question, and it's a yes or no for you too. Whether you're struggling today to ask Jesus in your heart, it's yes or no. It's a yes or no. If you don't answer, that's a no. Jesus says, do you want to get well? He says, I can't, sir, and he begins to make excuses, like we all do. The sick man said, for I have no one to put me into the pool when the water bubbles up. Someone else always gets ahead of me. But if you say yes, this next paragraph's for you. This man had been there for 38 years. He had been in his struggle. He had been in his problem for 38 years. And Jesus said, do you want to get well? And Jesus said, stand up, pick up your mat, and walk. He's waiting on us. He is literally waiting on us to stand up, because only Jesus can fill this void in our lives. No relationship, no job, no drug, no addiction. Only Jesus can fill it. And I made Jeff say, yes or no. I mean, it's that simple. You can't get away with maybe. You yes or no. If you say no, I'll leave. And he had to say yes. And he got in my car, and he's now, I took him to the foundry in this picture. But we have to turn that cup up. So in your slides there, are you living a horizontal or are you living vertical? Are you living for yourself? Are you trying to allow the earthly things to fill you up? It's just like this cup. If I was saying, I can't get this thing full of water, you'd call me crazy and say, won't you turn it up? Well, that's your life. You want to know why you're not getting things right at work? It's not your boss. The boss is not the enemy. There's only one enemy, and that's Satan. Turn to God, turn to Him, and He's the only one that can feel that inner peace that we're all dealing with. So A, admit you're a sinner. Admit you've messed up. Admit that, while you may not have gone out like the prodigal son, the foot of the cross is level. We all need Jesus. The second part here is we have to believe in Jesus. And, oftentimes we may overlook the work that the prodigal son had to do. He didn't just hop out of the pig pen. There's work. There's work to come back. But when you trust God, it's just like going into the gym. If you're not feeling the struggle, then you're not growing. Your muscles have to feel those things. But when he finally came to his senses, he said to himself, at home, even the hired servants have food enough to spare. And the hired servants were the lowest position on the farm. Even the slaves on the farm had housing on the farm, had food on the farm. The hired servants were out. They had to travel to and from and didn't get anything. So he was saying even those guys had it better than where he was. So I will go home to my father and say, Father, I have sinned against both heaven and you, and I am no longer worthy of being called your son. Please take me as a hired servant. So was it authentic? Did he truly believe? Absolutely. He admitted he was there, and he truly believed that his father was better than where he was at. And our Father is our Heavenly Father. That's asking Jesus into your heart. That's what he's relaying here to us. And he was saying, hey, I'll be the lowest guy on the totem pole. I just want to be in the presence of my Father. So he returned home to his father, and while he was still a long way off, his father saw him coming. Filled with love and compassion, he ran to his son, embracing him and kissing him. But you remember back, this is the same son that wished his dad was dead so he could get his inheritance. You got to know that your past doesn't keep you from him. Your father wants a relationship with you. He wants a relationship with your children. He wants a relationship with your co-workers. He wants a relationship with his children, period. There's nothing you can do to separate you from the Heavenly Father. He said to his son, Father, I've sinned against both heaven and you, and I am no longer worthy of being called your son. But his father said to his servants, quick, bring the finest robe in the house and put it on him. Get a ring for his finger and sandals for his feet, and kill the calf that we have been fattening. We must celebrate with a feast, for this son of mine was dead and now has returned to life. He was lost, but now he is found. So the party began. God wants us to come home, and he may have said, I'll come home as a hired servant, but his father said, no, there's a lot more greatness for my son. There's a lot more greatness for you. He has a higher calling on your life than you'll ever imagine, but you have to come home to him. You have to give God everything. You can't get some things to fill that up. It has to go completely up, hands off, and trust in the Father. That's what coming home is. That's what trusting the Father is. And I want to share another student story, and I've got a video in a second, but this is Trey. So Trey's currently in our class, and Trey's, each student that we have gets a mentor at Hope Inspired Ministries, and Nathan Bridgman, who goes to church here, is his mentor. So he comes by weekly, has lunch with him, and it's like a father figure to him. Trey's background is he lived with his mom, and his mom put him out of the house. He lived in Lowndes County, and he was homeless. So we were able to intervene to get him into shelter in Montgomery and get him into the program. And, he started to progress along, and probably along week 4 of the program, we had a speaker to come in, and Trey started asking questions about the gospel, asking questions about Jesus, asking questions about what you're learning today, the ABCs, admitting I'm a sinner. You know, all these things I did don't keep me from heaven. All these things don't keep me from Jesus. No. You know, and he started asking those questions, and then he did the B. He did just like this prodigal son. He said, you know what? God's way is no matter what, is 100 times better than the way that I've been trying it. And he said, I believe Jesus died for me, and he asked Jesus into his heart. He asked Jesus into his heart right there in the class. It didn't have to be in church, you know, so your coworkers need to hear Jesus. And then following that, it was a couple of days later, the pastor that was actually sharing with them invited us to this church. So we took a field trip to the church right in the middle of the day. And Trey got baptized. This was right after that. I got him to do a little video. We took several takes, but it's a short video, but wanted you to hear his excitement and also the point that, you know, his way is not good enough. And he realized that, and now he's ready to try it God's way. So let's watch this video.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Trey. I'm attending Hope Inspired Ministry. Not too long ago, a speaker came into the classroom, and the Lord really spoke to me. I've been reading the Bible for a minute, but I wanted to take the extra mile and get baptized, so I decided to get baptized, and I did it today. And it really does feel amazing when you go up under the water and you come back. Everything that you done never felt, it really be washed away from you. You can feel it. I've been living wrong for a long time, man. I just wanted to do the right thing and try it God's way. That's what I'm gonna do.
Hey. You know, and we did another video, and I told him I was going to be speaking to you guys today. And on that video, he said, I came home, and you can too. You know, Jesus is for everybody. And it says raised to life. And there's no greater, next week is baptism. But there's no greater picture of whatever your problem is, washing it in Jesus, you know, giving it to Jesus and turning it up because his way is 500 times better than the way that we try it. So you've got admit you're a sinner, B, believe that Jesus died for you. And these are the only three things you got to do to ask Jesus into your heart. And the next one is C, and that's choose. Choose. You know, and it's up to us to choose Jesus. I heard a comedian one time he's a Christian comedian, but he was talking about the gospel, and he said he wished that, you know, he could literally go around scaring the hell out of people, you know, scaring them out. He would be going around going, boo, boo, you know, and I wish I could do that or hit them in the head with the Bible, but it doesn't work like that. God loves us enough to allow you to choose, just like the father and the prodigal son. He gave him his inheritance. He said, you want to go try it your way? It's up to you. It's up to us. We have to make that decision to choose. And in the story of the prodigal son, one of the brothers, they did choose, and that was the prodigal son. But the other son, he didn't choose. And the story's kind of left there. Jesus doesn't tell us whether or not he chose or not. And that goes back to us. The choice is ours. But let's read this together, and I want you to really think about the other brother, because it's real easy to get caught up in thinking of the first one. But at the second one, I want you to put yourself there, because he did a lot of good work. But none of the good work he did filled his life up. Meanwhile, the older son was in the fields working. When he returned home, he heard music and dancing in the house. There was a life group in there. They were celebrating Jesus. And he asked one of the servants, what was going on? Your brother's back, he was told, and your father has killed the fattened calf. We are celebrating because of his safe return. The older brother was angry and wouldn't go in, so he wouldn't come home. His father came out and begged him, but he replied, all of these years I've enslaved for you and never once refused to do anything you told me to do. So he's done a lot of good. And in all that time, you never gave me even one young goat for a feast with my friends. Yet when this son of yours comes back after squandering your money on prostitutes, and it never said anything about prostitutes in there. So is this brother indicating what he would use the money for? He created that. In his mind, is that what is happening here? You celebrate by killing the fattened calf. His father said to him, look, dear son, you have always stayed by my side, and everything I have is yours. And back to the way the inheritance works, the younger son got 1/3 of his inheritance. Supposedly after he died is when he was going to get it. Well, the other son got his third plus the father's third. So 2/3 of everything was his. But it was not enough because it won't fill you up. We had to celebrate this happy day, for your brother was dead and has come home, back to life. He was lost, but now he is found. And before this story in the Bible, they talk about the one lost sheep, and when one comes back, I mean, it's a party. I mean, I just imagine, I get a chance to pray with the kids downstairs when one of them asks Jesus in. I mean, it sends chills up my spine. But I know there's a party going on in heaven. There's a celebration like this because that child has said, you know what? I'm going to give my life to Jesus. And it is a choice. You admit you're a sinner, believe that Jesus died for you, but then see, you got to choose, even when it don't make sense. There's a story that really illustrates this point of it's just a yes or no, and the decision is yours. There was a group of people, and you had Jesus on one side and Satan on the other side, and the group of people were picking sides. Many picked Jesus, but unfortunately some picked Satan. And there was a fence that kind of separated the two properties together. And one guy was sitting on the fence just kind of watching everything going on. And Jesus took those who picked, and they went on, and Satan got his guys, and they went on, and both were gone. About 15 minutes later, Satan came back, and he was just kind of looking around like he had lost something. And the guy on the fence said, what you looking for? And Satan, when he said that, he looked at him and said, oh, there you are. Come on, let's go. It's time to go. And the guy on the fence, he said, oh, no, I didn't pick you. I'm just sitting here on the fence. And Satan said, oh, that's okay. I own the fence. So there is no middle of the road. Just like Jeff, the answer is yes or the answer is no. But we have to make that decision. We have to make the decision. Just like Jeff earlier, he was trying to figure things out in his head. God doesn't call you to figure things out. I love Psalms 23 where it says, in the presence of your enemies, right in the midst of your problems, okay, they're not going to go away, but right in the midst of your problems, God will prepare a feast. I like to say, God will turn your haters into your elevators. But right there in the midst of it, He will do that. It doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to make sense to us. When you try to make things make sense, you make the gospel hard instead of simple. But it is truly simple. If you don't know Jesus, you got to have Him. You got to have Him in your life. So I want to call Eli. He's my youngest son. I got him on my socks up here, but he wanted to come on the stage too because I needed somebody to help me with this analogy. And the person helping me has got to play God. So he said, oh, I can do that. I can do that. But he's going to bring this up here while I read this. But trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. Seek His will in all you do, and He will show you which path to take. He don't want you to figure it out. Okay? Jeff was trying to figure it out. He said, that's not what I'm asking. Do you want to get well? But I want to give this bike illustration and kind of show you what happens in my life. Maybe it doesn't happen in your life, but this is how it goes down. And Eli's going to be playing God. He said he can do that really well, But right now he's off the bike. This bike represents my life, and throughout my life, I'm going through, and I'm riding my life doing things within my power. Okay, trying to trust my own instincts, and this happens to all of us. But as we go through life, we're wrecking and we're crashing, and we may cry out to God, saying, "God, where are you at? Here at work, I've got all these problems. In my marriage, I've got all these problems. Within my addiction, I can't stop this addiction. But we're trying to do it. We may cry out to him because we heard it at church, but God don't want you to cry out to him. He wants you to turn your bucket up. But yet we're still steadily trying to do it in our own power, trying harder. And the harder we try, the harder we fall. Running into ditches, running into dead ends. Maybe it's getting fired from a job. Whatever that problem is. But as you can see, there's an empty seat on my bike. There's an emptiness within me. And so y'all are sitting here saying, why don't you put God in your life? So I'm like, okay, that's a good idea. So I invite God into my life, but I got two choices. What seat am I going to put him in? Hey, God, hey, I need you, but I need you in the back seat. I need you in the back seat. So now I'm like, whoo, thank goodness. Now I got that peace. I got God in my life. You know, he's in the back seat, but I got him. I got him there. So I'm still going through life trying to do my own thing. Still running in, still crashing. I'm like, man, what's going on? I mean, I asked Jesus in my heart, but I'm still crashing. Okay? And then I notice he's starting to tap me and point, and I'm like, I ain't ready. I ain't ready to go over there. And I start wrestling with God in my own life. Because I'm still trying to do it in my own power. And I'm still trying to drive, and now I'm trying to wreck him too. Okay? But he's steadily telling me which way to go, and it's me ignoring him, saying, maybe later. I can't right now because I got to meet this deadline. I got to do this. I got to study to get this promotion. I got to make more money. We're going to do that in a little while. God don't want you to wait. He wants you to surrender. He wants you to surrender completely, 100%, not 50. So, in my life, I'm like, you know what? I got this backwards. I need God up front in my life. You need to drive this. So then I say, hey, God, you take the front seat. And then I get in the back seat. But guess what I start doing back here? Like God's tapping me on my shoulders. I'm still trying to control the situation. So all of a sudden, I start, hey, let's go this way. Let's go that way. But that still ain't the right way. And then I try to tell him, say, God, I want this. I want that. I want that job. If I can't have that job, I ain't going to be happy. If that ain't the one wants for you, then you won't be happy. But we have to come to a point in our lives and quit fighting God and completely surrender to him. And the only way you do that is to put yourself directly behind God. Will the road get rough? Will there be times when you don't see what he wants for you? Yes. But he doesn't call you to figure things out. He calls you to trust him. Trust him. In Jeremiah 29:11 it says, for I know the plan for you. You don't know it. So quit trying to figure it out. And you get behind him and you stay. Will the road be rough? But look who's driving. God made you. He made the earth. Trust him in all aspects of that. So thank Eli for helping up here. Yeah. But, in Jeremiah 29:11, it didn't just say he knows the plans for you. They're plans to prosper. His way is better. But you have to do, like this verse says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Okay? You can't invest 50% and expect to get 100%. All right? My life wasn't going good until I allowed God not just to come to church with me on Sunday, but to go to work with me on Monday. He wants to go with you. He wants to be in your marriage. He wants to be in your parenting. He wants to be in your friends. So make that decision to say, you know what? I'm going to trust God and do it his way. His way. So as we prepare for kind of the next steps and to close this down, join a life group. Don't be that renegade buffalo. You've got to have people around you to lift you up. There's a small group training next week for life groups. Me and my wife made that decision a long time ago to say, you know what? If we want our marriage to grow by like this, 50%, 100% return on your investment, then we've got to make those time. We got to put time into it. All too often we're sitting up in the front seat, not giving God any time in our lives, expecting big things to happen. They won't happen. They won't happen until you trust God with everything. Your finances. Money is a huge struggle. Give it to God. And it all of a sudden it's no longer a struggle. I tell people all the time, if you want a blessing, you got to be a blessing. You have to be a blessing. And when you give that up, then you find peace. You find peace in your life. I've got YouVersion Bible devotion. If you're not on YouVersion, do it. There's a small app on there, and I've got 2 guy groups at this church that do it every day. I did it this morning. That's where I got to Jeremiah 29:11. It talked about that very thing this morning. But there's a group of guys that do a devotion each and every day, and it provides accountability. It provides support. It provides time in the Bible, which equals growth in my own life. It gives him direct fill up. But you've got to give him every day of your life. You do. You have to. If you want to join that, one of the guys that wants to join our group, get with me afterwards. I'd love to have you in that group. And baptism is next Sunday. I encourage you, if you've made a decision to follow Jesus, to do like Trey. I tell the kids all the time when they ask Jesus in, it's like putting on the Jesus jersey. It's letting folks know whose team you're on. I got Jesus. Yes, I do. I got Jesus. How about you? This middle question, there's no greater question in the world. Whether or not you go to work Monday doesn't matter. Whether you go get in your car doesn't matter. Where you're going to eat for lunch doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is, do you know Jesus? Do you? Whatever struggle you're in, Jesus is sitting there saying, hey, here I am. Jesus stood right by the beggar, or right by the lame man for 38 years. And he said, hey, here I am. Do you want to get well? He's asking you the same thing. Do you want to get well? This is how you get well. You ask Jesus into your heart. You admit that you're broken, in need of a repairer. You admit that you're a sinner and you've messed up. And you believe, just like the prodigal son. That was authentic. That was authentic. He said, you know what? I'll come back as a hired servant. Just let me in the fold. And then see, you choose. You ask Jesus into your heart. And you don't have to wait till you get things right. You don't have to wait till next Sunday. You could do that today. And just know that there's no greater decision ever. It's simple. Oh, but that's the most important thing you'll ever do. Will you do it today? Will you come home? Trey said that in this other video. He came home. You can too. Let's bow our heads. Dear gracious and Heavenly Father, in a room of this size, I know statistically that there's some that don't know you. Dear Lord, I want you to speak to them at this moment. There's no greater decision ever than to ask Jesus into our hearts. You tell us in John 14:6, you are the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through you. There's no other way. There's not an alternate route. We can't take a shortcut or a long cut to get there. The only way is through Jesus. And you do that by simply asking Him in your heart. If there's anybody here that does not know Jesus, I want you to simply repeat after me. If you want to ask Jesus into your heart, to simply just repeat this. This is how I talk to the kids. It's not hard. Step A is to admit I'm a sinner, admit I'm broken, admit I mess up. I've squandered it all. I've tried everything. My bucket was sideways and nothing worked. I know it. I messed up. But thank goodness my past don't determine my future. My God does. And I believe that you sent Jesus to die for me. And then see, this is it. I mean, this is literally change your life forever. And Jesus says, do you want to get well? And if you said yes, boom, just like that, he's in your heart. He's in your heart. You know, and if you prayed that prayer as I repeated it, you know, with eyes still bowed, I want you to raise your hand and say, you know what? If a kid down there raises his or her hand and says, I want Jesus, if it's good for kids, I want to prove statistics wrong. More kids come to Christ, but there's nothing to say an adult can't come to him. I want you to slip your hand up and say, you know what? I've been riding a bike by myself, and I want Jesus in my life. I want you to slip your hand up now and just say, Jesus, I need you. I want you. I got to have you in my life so that I can have that peace. You know, and there's others in here that perhaps you've been on the front seat and you may have Jesus in your life and he's tapping you on your shoulder, wanting you to lead a life group, wanting you to serve. If you're not serving, hey, you're missing a blessing. It is such a blessing to serve others. What is God asking you to do? Get out in the front seat and get in the back seat and let God drive your life. That's how he made you. That's how he designed you. You won't find peace until you do that. You'll keep wrecking your bike. You'll keep wrecking your marriage. You keep wrecking your job. You keep wrecking your finances. And it'll be a broken record. But the answer is simple. It is so simple. Give it to him and let him do it. The prayer team will be down front. They're going to play a song, and I encourage you, if you need to come down front and get things right with God, if you need to come down front and say, God, I'm sorry for trying to drive my bike. I want you to take the lead. I want you to take the handlebars. I want you to drive this bike. I encourage you to come down front and get that right with him.